to my book journey. Today I just wanted to chat with you about the books that I have read so far in the month of March. I have read, up until this point, I have read 9 books, and even though that's quite a bit of books so far, I still have quite a bit more on my March TBR. I just put so many books on my March TBR, and but the books I've read have been really enjoyable. And so I just wanted to chat with you and do like this, like I said, the halfway point, because if I waited till the end of the month, it would just be a super long video. And I really want to talk about these books. I had some really good ones. So first of all, I want to start with the, let's talk about the middle grade books that I've read so far. So this book, finished this one yesterday, actually. Yeah, finished it yesterday. This is Sounder by William H. Armstrong. And I had never read this book. I knew there was a movie years ago. I remember seeing it, but it's been so long. So the story wasn't fresh in my mind. And this book I have picked and put on my TBR. It was part of my, it was one of the ones in my prompt jar that said, read a book that was published the year you were born. And so thankfully I had a book on my shelves that covered that and was middle grade. So this book, oh my goodness, it is short, but it's packed with a lot. And it was so, it was heartbreaking. It really was a heartbreaking story. And Sounder is the name of the dog, the coonhound. And right away at the very beginning, something happens to the dog, and it kind of shocked me because I wasn't ready for that. And then something happens to the young boy's father at the very beginning of the book as well. And so the book is about this young man and his perspective of what is happening in his family. His father is arrested and taken just right out of the home, taken from him, taken from the family. And they really don't, at first they don't even know where he's been taken to. And then they find out he's in jail. And that's the book, is the young boy going about his life as he can without his father around. And we find throughout the book that he goes on long walks and journeys to different towns and everything, trying to find out where his dad was, because he does not, they were never notified where his father would end up being, serving his time in prison for the crime that he was accused of. Now this is set in the South, and they're sharecroppers, and so you see a lot of the times that they were living in, and there is some language in this book and I thought, oh wow, this is a middle grade book and it has this in here, but it is to the times that they were living in. So, but it is like I said, it's very emotional and heartbreaking, but I did enjoy the read, so I did enjoy that one. The next middle grade book I read was For My Journey Through Time, March prompt, which is a child's tale, and this is the single shard. And oh my goodness, this is another one. But if you've been on my channel very long, you know that I like emotional books that make me cry and that kind of thing. And this one did as well. At the very end was very heartbreaking. I wasn't expecting what happened to happen. This is about an orphan boy in Korea back in the, what century? It's way back, way back. My goodness, I should have written that down. He is, like I said, he's an orphan. And in the author's note, she talks about that in this time period, there really wasn't homeless like we would consider homeless, because if you were down and out in your life, or a widow or things like that, your family would take you in, your family would take care of you. But if you were an orphan and you didn't have any family, then children like that were taken usually to maybe to serve at the temple there. So this little boy, his parents had something happen to them, so he was an orphan, and on his way to be taken to the temple, he ends up staying with a man that was homeless, and because he didn't have anybody, but he was living by himself, and he took care of the child for a little bit, for a time, and then when the monks came to get him, he was a little boy and he didn't want to go. He attached himself to this man, and he decided to stay there and so they just left him. So this man, Craneman, what is his name? Oh, I can't remember his name offhand. He took care of him, and he just pretty much raised Tree Ear. That was the little boy's name, because he had something wrong with his ear. So in the course of the story, he grows up with this man, and they like kind of fend for themselves. They're eating from the trash and things like that, just however they're able to get by. And he ends up working for a potter in that little town. And what he really wants is to learn how to be a potter himself. And he even asks the potter, and the man is like, nope, can't teach you, because for them, they could only pass on and apprentice their children, their own son. So during the course of this book, he is working for the potter and the wife, and of course he gets attached to them, but there's also a journey that takes place and something tragic that happens, like I said, at the end. But it's just a good story. I really enjoyed the story of a single shard. Love that one. The other middle grade book that I read is the group read for middle grade March, and this one is called Max and the House of Spies. I actually listened to this on audio. I found it on audio, and it was really good. This one was kind of like a magical realism, historical fiction twist. It takes place during the time it kicks off right at the beginning of World War II in Germany. We have Max, and his family sends him to England because they're Jewish, to get away from the coming, not the Nazis coming into power, and Hitler and everything bad that's going to start happening. Of course, Max doesn't want to go and leave his parents, but he does go, and he ends up living with the family in England and going to school there. And even though he's in England, he is still getting bullied and everything because of his Jewish background, and plus he's German too. So not only he's German because he was raised in German, and then England is against Germany, so he has two things going against him. He's German, and then he's Jewish, and so he's getting bullied for both those things. But he truly wants to go back home, and it takes part over several years of him staying there in England. And then this family later on, they kind of recruit him to be a spy. And so this book is a duology. So this book shows how he comes into this family and how he is with that family. And then also after they recruit him, and kind of how he goes through his training. And you're thinking, they're recruiting a young kid to be a spy, And so I assume the next book is going to pick it up and see what happens as far as his assignment and what he actually does for the English. Also, the reason it's a magical realism is because of the two little characters that are on his shoulders. So on the boat over to England, when he first leaves Germany, these little creatures pop up on his shoulder. And at first he thinks that he's going crazy, that they're imaginary, but they kind of prove to him in the course of the book that they are real, and they're with him all the time. And they tell him things, and they help him out in situations, and they're just funny little characters. And they're with him the whole time. They're with him all the time. So that's going to be interesting and they're like, why is he spying? He is a little boy. He shouldn't be doing this kind of thing. So that's really funny. So yeah, I did enjoy this one, and I think I'm going to see if I can find the book 2, if it's even I forgot to check to see if book 2 is out yet, to see because I really want to know what happens with Max in his spying adventures, and now that he's back in Germany, and what happens. Hopefully we'll get something resolved about his parents, about what happened to them, because they kind of alluded to him that he wasn't, because he thought when he got back to Germany, he would just be able to go back to his house. And they kind of told him, well, your parents aren't there anymore. So I want to see what happened to them. So that one was a great middle grade. So far I've only read 3 middle grade books. And I have several others that I would like to read. But if not, then at least I've read 3 middle grades for the month of March. I finished the Francine Rivers book, Read Along, that we're doing with Oshina. I finished it early in the month. In February, that was one of the last books I read. This time I picked it up and I couldn't put it down. It was a fast read for me because of the what it was about, and I didn't realize, or maybe I had heard about what it was about, and then I just forgot what it was. So it's kind of shocking in the very first chapter about what happens to this young woman. She is a young girl in college, at a Christian college, and she is coming home from work, walking home at night, and she gets viciously attacked. And unfortunately, during this attack, she's assaulted, and she survives the attack, but unfortunately, later on, she finds out that she has become pregnant. And that is what the book is about, is how is Dinah going to deal with this pregnancy? And as a believer, right away, she does not want to terminate the pregnancy. Even when she's at the hospital, when they're examining her, they talk about giving her like I think they call it the morning after pill or something like that, and she refuses that. And even though they say, you're not thinking right, go ahead and take it, but she refuses it. I think it's because too she's hoping that won't happen anyway, but of course in the story it does. And so she is dealing with this pregnancy, and also she's engaged, and so her fiance has to deal with not only that she was assaulted, but now she's pregnant, and he wants her to terminate the pregnancy. And so they have that conflict between them. And then she really doesn't want anybody to know about this. She doesn't even tell her parents that they're living in another state. She's originally from California. And so she is just, she's just a hurting, struggling young woman. She's just very young. And it's just it's such a sad story that she's going through this. But yet she, her faith brings her through it. And she just wants to listen to God and to listen to what he wants in her life and what she should do. And she just wants to follow his will, even in the midst of the tragedy. And she has those questions about why did this happen to me? And we have her mother, her parents. So they have a story in here as well, and then also her grandmother. And it seems like they also all have connections to terminating a child in their past, and the ramifications, and how that affected them in their lives. And then we have a physician that is in this book too, and we see his story, and he is a physician that performs these procedures every day. And that chapter was hard to read too. So it's all about that, and abortion, and from different angles, and it's really good. I really enjoyed the book. It's a hard read, but then, like I said, it was a fast read for me, because I wanted to know what was going to happen to Dinah, what was her fiance going to do, what were her parents going to do in this situation, and her grandmother, what was going to happen with her, and this doctor. You just wanted to know what was going to happen in these stories, and she was just a brave young woman. And so I really enjoyed this book by Francine Rivers. Compared to last month, where we read The Lady's Mind, which is very lighthearted, this was the total opposite. Total opposite book for sure. And so yeah, it was really good. I enjoyed this one. Okay, this next one was a rollover from February, and I finished it really early in the month, because I was really close to the end, but I didn't have time to finish it by the end of the month. But I did finish it, and oh my goodness, this was actually a reread for me. I read it with my husband, and I read it to my husband and we both really enjoyed it. Looking forward to the movie. It comes out next, it'll be this week. By the time I'm filming this video, it'll be in this week, and I'm so excited. I can't wait to see it. So this is Project Hail Mary. It is a sci-fi secular book written by Andy Weir. He's the same author that wrote The Martian, and this book is so good. And as I was reading it, I remember, so I had to look and see, when did I read it last time? And it was, I read this book in 2023, I believe. And so it was way before I had my YouTube channel, and I had just started getting back into reading, and I picked it up because I loved The Martian, the movie The Martian with Matt Damon, loved that. And I had heard that he wrote another book, and I checked it out from the library, and it was a, you know, hard copy too, and I'm like, oh my goodness, this is a chunky book. But I read that when I first read it. I read it so fast, like within a couple days. And I remember just loving it, loving the story. And then as I'm rereading it, I'm thinking, and I'm reading it out loud to Kenny. Maybe that's why too, because I'm reading it out loud. It is so technical. It is so with science and math and everything. I'm like, wow. And because I'm just like saying how great this book is, in which it is. I just love the story. But I don't know if everybody's going to love that part of the book. I don't know if people are going to be like, this is just too much math. This is just too much. It is a lot. It's a lot of technical stuff, but I like it because, you know, the whole book is them trying to figure out a problem. They're trying to figure out a solution to a problem. And so they're doing all the math, they're doing all the science, and Andy Weir is a software engineer who he was a big nerd, and he loves the sciences of going to space. He loves space travel. He loves all that stuff, and NASA and astrophysics and all that stuff. But he's a nerd about that. So he puts that in his book. And then he also has friends, and in the author's note talks about that he has friends that are actually in that field. So he goes to them for okay, is this how they would do it? Is this what we, you know, to try to make sure everything is correct technically. So is a lot of technical jargon in this book, and step by step of how he does things. The character Ryland that's in space. And so I hope if you pick up this book that doesn't stop you from reading the book, and keep reading the book, because the story is so good. To me anyway, it's so good with Ryland and his experience. And one of the things that makes it really good is we go back there, he has, well, I will say in the very beginning of the book, the premise is this: Ryland, when he wakes up in space, and he has memory loss, and he doesn't know where he's at. So it takes him a while he doesn't even know who he is. So he has no memory, and he finds himself he thinks he's like in a hospital. And as the book proceeds, he realizes where he's at. And then slowly memories start coming back. So those memories are like different chapters in the book of what happened to him before he got up here. And so then you get to see what happened to him and how he ended up on this spaceship. And the end, when I read it the first time, the big twist at the end was like, oh wow. And so of course, it's a reread, so I knew it was coming, but I still enjoyed the book. I really did. And like I said, I'm looking forward to the movie. So if you haven't read this, I highly recommend it. Even though it's a secular book, there's not a lot of swearing. Now in The Martian there was, I remember that there was some swearing in that book. And there is a little bit in here, but not by Ryland. That was one of the interesting things about him, is that he is a school teacher, so he doesn't curse. He uses words that he uses as curse words, but they're not what we think of as curse words. And that's kind of like the funny thing about certain things that he says in the book. But love his character and everything. So great. It was a great reread for me. Another book that I read, that I listened to on audio, is a book called You Are Fatally Invited. And You Are Fatally Invited, yes. And this was this was a book that popped up on my Libby as I had put it on hold, and it popped up. I'm like, oh great, because it's a mystery. It'll count for March Mystery Madness. And it also counted for books that I wanted to read that were recommended by other booktubers, like their favorites of 2025. And this was Chantel Reads All Day, one of her favorites, not her favorite, but one of her favorites of 2025. And so this book reminded me so much. And of course, I think it was supposed to be like that. It reminded me of Agatha Christie's And Then There Were None. And I read that for the first time a couple years ago, I think. And that one was really good. But this one was the same setup. It was a group of authors, mystery authors, that were invited to an island for a kind of like a writer's retreat of some sort. But right away, the way it's being narrated, you know that they were invited here for ulterior motives. And so you come to find out that each one of these authors have some kind of secret in their past, and that's how, and then there were none that was how they were. Those in that book, they were not all authors, but they were just these people. And during that book, you find out that they all did something bad and the person that invited them there was, wanted justice and that kind of thing. So this is the similar thing here. We have these authors and they find themselves on this island, and then things start to go, bad, and somebody turns up dead, and then they're like, wait a minute, what's going on here? And so you as a reader, you're wondering, okay, and like I said, because I had read And Then There Were None, I was like, oh, it's going to be one of those books where you got to figure out who of all these people that are on this island, who is it? Is it the help? Is it the, it was, I think there was 9 or 10 authors, and then they had the gal that was like the hostess, and then the person that invited them, and then was like this mystery writer that nobody had ever met before. And then they had two people that were like servants or help that were helping like make the food and things. And so you had to figure out, okay, which one of these people is the killer? Right, I had something, sorry, I had something in my eye. So yes, and it was good. I thought it was okay. I did not like it, of course, as much as I enjoyed the Agatha Christie book. And the end was kind of, I don't know about the end for me. Like I said, I did listen to it on audio, and the audio was good because you did have different narrators for the different characters. So I did enjoy that. But on the whole, it was okay book. I think I gave it like 3.5 stars for me. Okay, let me look over my notes real quick here, make sure I got everything. Okay, so I'm going to talk about these last 2 books because so far this book is like it's going to be one of my favorites of the year. I already know because it was so good. Now, I read this book with several other ladies here on BookTube. We group read it together, and we all loved it. This is Edenbrooke, and I want to read more books by her. In fact, I ended up reading another book by her. I added it on this month. I'll talk about that here in a second. By Julianne Donaldson. This book was so sweet. If you've read it and you enjoyed it, you know what I'm talking about. This is about it's a Regency novel about a young girl named Marianne, and she is, she's not an orphan. She's not an orphan. She has a twin sister, but her parents are passed away. So they're not really orphans because they have a grandmother, but they're of the age of, it's time for them to get married. And she gets invited to go to a estate that her sister has been going to, I believe. And in fact, she knows that her sister is kind of wanting to marry the lord or whatever of this estate, which is Edenbrooke. Person has money and things. And her sister, they're twins, but they're very different. The other sister, her sister is very outgoing and just knows what she wants, and flirty and forward and everything. And and Marianne is very different. She's very different. She wants to live in the country. She doesn't want to be around London, and she's more maybe I wouldn't say outdoorsy, because it's still Regency time period, but anyway, so she ends up going to this place, but on the way something happens to her. Her carriage gets attacked by highwaymen, and then she manages to escape, and then she gets to an inn to ask for help, and she sees a gentleman there, and he ends up helping her. At first he doesn't, but then he ends up helping her, and then yeah. And then the story unfolds. It's kind of hard to talk about it without spoiling things, and maybe even that was too much of a spoiler. It's a beautiful love story. It's like very swoon. The girls and the thing, they come very, like, the things that happen and things that our main character Philip says, very swoon worthy. His character is really lovely. I love his character, and everything that happens in their relationship. And of course, there's something happens between them, and then we have like some, there's kind of like a mystery, not a mystery, but like who's behind her being attacked, and then later on it comes up again towards the end of the book. It was really good. It was just a really sweet love story. I just loved it, and there's certain things that happen. I was like, oh, I just love it. I just love it. And the way they spoke to each other, and there are certain scenes in the book that I really loved. There was a library scene that I just loved. There was a scene where he was teaching her how to write a love letter, which that was wonderful. Love that. Just love it. Okay, so after I finished the book, I looked it up. I was like, is this part of a series? Is there more of these characters? And I did find that there is a novella. It's a prequel, and that one's called The Heir to Edenbrooke, and this is about Philip's story. And I'll put a picture up here. So this is a novella, and so like I said, it was about 100 pages long, and it is like how Philip got to the inn, basically, because that's where he first meets Marianne. And so we find out he was serving in the military, and well, gosh, I can't even tell you this because it's a spoiler. Yeah. So I loved it because you got a little bit more background into Philip, and especially what he was thinking in his mind whenever that happened at the end, and what his perspective was, and why he did the things that he did, and everything. And yeah, I love that. And so that was it. It was like starts for a few years before this book happens, and what was happening in his life, and how he got there, and what he was doing. So yeah, so if you have read Edenbrooke and you didn't know there was a novella, I'd recommend that you read it, because like I said, it's very short, but you get a little bit more on Philip, and Philip's such a great character. So those are all the books that I've read so far in March. I have quite a few on my list that I still need to get to. Okay, sorry. I'm gonna sneak this back in. I've already finished recording. And then I remembered, oh, I forgot a book. And I'm gonna go ahead and talk about it, so that I thought, well, I will just talk about it at my wrap-ups, but I'm just gonna go ahead and talk about it now because I just finished reading it. And it's called A Groom, put it up here, A Groom of One's Own. And I listened to this on audio. This is part of the Appies series, and it's by Emma St. Clair, and I just love these Appie books. They're hockey romances. And the series is by Emma St. Clair and Jenny Proctor. So this is actually book 3. I read book 1 and 2 out of order because I read them way far apart from each other, and at the time I didn't realize they were part of the series. But those two, it really didn't matter. But going forward, I'm gonna go in order. So I read book 3 because this is another one that popped up on my Libby. I had it on hold, and so because I didn't have it at all in my March TBR at all, but I had it on hold, and it came up that it was ready, and so of course I was like, yes, I will listen to it. And it was really good. I will say, out of the 3 that I've read so far, this is my 3rd favorite. It wasn't the story wasn't as, not, I didn't like it as well as I liked the other one. Not that it was bad, but if I'm going to be ranking them, this one comes in third. For the third book, it does come in third. It is about the Abby is another hockey player. And this one, his name is Eli, and he is Canadian, and he finds out that his visa is overdue or coming due, and if he doesn't do something about it very quickly, he's going to get deported back to Canada. And I mean, he has like a month or something. And when he was talking to the lawyer and the other people in his in the hockey like the owner, I believe, you know, they talked about, you know, if you were married, then you could stay here. And the lawyer was like, no, you can't say that because that's fraud. And so that's what our story is about. Marriage of convenience was the trope here, because he does not have a girlfriend. So he can't really say, you know, I'm going to marry my girlfriend. He doesn't have one, but he is interested in a young woman that is working at a pet shelter, and he loves dogs, and he has been going to this shelter for the past few months to see the dogs, and because he can't adopt a dog because of his employment, because he's always out, you know, traveling with the hockey team. Because of that, he can't adopt a dog. So to get his dog fix, he goes to the shelter. Anyway, there's a young girl that works there at the shelter. Her name is Bailey, and he likes her. And of course she likes him, but she's very shy, and usually they only talk about the dog or the dogs and things like that. So they don't have, they haven't dated or anything like that. But now he has to find a person to marry. He puts it in his head because his reasoning for that, I mean, he probably figures, and if it was just him, he would probably just go back to Canada. But he lives with his mom there, and to leave her to go back to Canada would be a risk to her health, because she wasn't getting the proper care in Canada that she has in the States. And so he wants to stay in where they live, because she has, and they've been living there for like 10 years. And so she has community there, friends there, and her physicians are there for her health issues. And so because of that, he decides, hey, let's see if I can marry someone, and then that'll give me a reason to stay. And so him and Bailey are gonna, and Bailey has financial situations herself. She has nobody except for her grandmother that lives in a facility, but her grandmother has dementia, so she doesn't even know who Bailey is. But Bailey's parents were killed in a car accident right before she was graduating from college, and so she is the sole provider and caretaker for her grandmother, and she's struggling financially. So this marriage would help benefit both of them. But of course, as the story goes on, they start getting to know each other and falling in love and that kind of thing. And so, like I said, it wasn't my favorite of the Appy's books, but it was a sweet, clean, and all these are clean little romance books. And I always love the hockey part of it. Although my husband was like, this whole thing about him needing, that he's going to need to get married because his visa's running out. He would have had people on his administrators or whatever of the hockey team that would have been on it. That would have been like, hey, this needs to be done way ahead of time, so it would have never come to this. And I'm like, yeah, probably, but you know, we needed that for the story. So he didn't like that part. He's like, no, that's not realistic. But anyway, so sorry, I have to add that back in here because I totally forgot about talking about that book. So back to the rest of the video. Before I leave, I just wanted to show you a funny story. So, and I don't think I've shared this before, but I picked up this book, a student's dictionary at the thrift store, and I bought it a while back, and I don't know why I was looking at it. So this is actually the dictionary, but the rest of this is a bunch of information of like all kinds of stuff. Weights and measures, symbols. It has the periodic table, multiplication table. It has like the Constitution in here, civic lessons, all the presidents. It has science, the planets. all the 50 state information about the 50 states, and we like world continents and countries. A lot of the, looks like most of the countries in here, like facts about populations. Let's see what else does it has in here. Oh my goodness, it goes on and on and on. Oh, like planets and solar systems, science. It even has Braille and weather things, and sign language. So I was teasing Allie that I was like, well, this is all you need for your homeschool, just one book, just this one book. And she was having fun just looking through everything. And the very first thing is this crazy thing. I was like, I need to look that up to see if this is really true. But I don't know if you can read it. It says, the longest word in the English language. And all this right here is the word. Isn't that wild? It's like, how could you even pronounce it? It says this word consists of 1,909 letters. And it is the term for this formula, which is a bunch of numbers and letters. Some kind of protein. Isn't that wild? So yeah. Yeah, Ellie's like, you gotta show that book that you got that has everything in it. Yeah. Like a one book homeschool, one book homeschool thing. Curriculum, I guess, what you'd say. Okay, so that is it. I will let you go. I've been on way too long. That's why I said I have to shorten up these book wrap-ups, because I'm going to end up talking too much, and then the next video will be the books I read starting this week, and hopefully the end. I do still have my I am reading right now. I already started my book for Jane Reads, which is really good. And then I have some more of my books in my prompt jar that I need to read. And then, oh yeah, my jar pick. I haven't read my jar pick yet. That's going to become, I need to read that. Yeah, so I got a lot of books. And my book for Kenny's reading challenge, that one by Terry Balzac, I need to read. And then I'm also going to be I have 2 more buddy reads coming in at the end of the month. I'm going to be buddy reading Emma M. Lyon Volume 3 with Katrie starting on Monday. We're going to start reading that. And then next Monday, I'm going to start reading another buddy read with Taylor over at Tales and Trees with Tay. We're going to read a Sherlock Holmes book for March Mystery Madness. So yeah, I've got a lot more books on my plate. And hopefully I will do my buddy reads, but hopefully I'll get some of those other books read as well. All right. Well, that is all I have for you today. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. Thank you so much, and you all have a blessed day. Bye-bye.